Hello everybody, this is Freddy with FreddyCanFly, and in today's video we are going to begin the setup process and advance into the Series 4, the V-Bar setup. This is the V-Bar Neo. In our previous segment, we went through just kind of an overall out-of-the-box, what to expect, and also how to pair the V-Bar Neo, or which system you're using, alongside with the V-Control. So if you're not at that point, go ahead and get there. Moving along, you guys will see I've got my machine here. I've went ahead. I know with the Goblin machines and some of the other ones out there, they have swash leveling tools that will actually slide onto the main shaft with the main rotor on. They kind of have a cutout on them. In my case, I don't have access to that. So I've uninstalled the main rotor and all the mixing arms. I've also safely removed my tail blades to avoid any potential casualties, if the motor happens to spool up or whatnot. That way I can get my swash leveling tool on and we can go through and center out our servos and everything. So I highly recommend you get yourself to this point. Also, I have installed the V-Bar Neo. It is paired to my radio, take in mind, but I want to go through with you guys real quick and do a couple of pre-radio setups before you plug in your servos. Reason being is it'll have you set up different things for the servos, your swash plate geometry, the frequencies and the hertz for the tail, and things of that nature, and I just don't want to see you cause any damage prematurely by plugging in too quickly. Now, if you know what you're doing, you guys are experienced, by all means, plug everything in, you're going to be fine. But in my case, I've already went through this procedure, so I know that I'm safe to do it, but I'd like to demonstrate it for you guys. So I'm going to assume that you got a machine sitting there, you've got your V-Bar Neo paired to your V-Control device, and we're ready to move on to the first step. I'm going to assume that you have not yet plugged in any of your servos. Please take in mind you will still need to provide a power source. So since you're mounted in, you can just draw power right off. Feel free to plug in your ESC or your BEC, or this next step you could also do with just a small pack if you really wanted to. So let's go ahead real quick, guys. Let's jump over to the V-Control. You can see I've got it here. Okay, and let's go ahead and let's power on. Okay, so as of right now, you can see I'm not connected. Nothing's really going on. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to go ahead and provide power to the machine. That way we can go ahead and get the paired unit connected. So give me a quick second. And you'll see she connects almost instantly. I absolutely love that. Boom. Okay. So right here on the bottom it says new 600. What we're going to want to do, and again, assuming that nothing's plugged in yet, no servos or anything, we're just going straight off of either a pack for the power or the ESC or something. But you'll want to just scroll your little wheel, and what we're going to want to do is you're going to notice there's a whole bunch of menus here, but we're going to skip all those for now. And we're going to go down here into Model Setup. Okay. And then if we go into Setup Tools, it's going to give us the option for ESC Setup Wizard. We're going to skip that for now. We will get into that at a later time. Okay. Oops. And then we're going to want to go down into New Heli Wizard. Now, those of you that are extremely experienced, of course, don't have to go through this process. But I like to as the initial setup, and then we're going to fine-tune and delegate all the different corrections we need afterwards. But, okay, so you'll see here they've got all the selections for the logo models. All the way up to, what is it, the 700 or 800 or something. Now, I'm using the Tron 5.5. You might be using a T-Rex. You might be using a Goblin, TDR. I mean, anything else out there. So, they did provide kind of, I don't really consider these pre-setups. I almost consider them a good foundation, a good starting point. So, I'm going to go, they've got a section here for Other. Since mine's a 5.5 or a 550, I'm going to go ahead and choose the 600 class, just because I'm using the bigger size servos and everything like that. But go ahead and select this accordingly. Take in mind, guys, this is just a kind of like a benchmark, okay? This isn't how your heli is going to be defined the rest of its life, okay? But I'm going to go ahead and select this. Now, the reason we're doing this is it's going to give us kind of some foundation to build off of for the rest of our setup. Okay, so it gives you a little thing here for new setups. Make sure you unplug motor cables, yada, 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 be safe. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and select our load value and start new setup. Boom. Now give it a quick second. I think it takes a few seconds here to kind of run through and it kind of reboots everything. I would recommend doing this, guys, with every new V-Bar Neo and every new machine type. So if you were to take this machine off from a 550 and put it on an 800 or on a 450, I like doing this because all different machines are going to have different mounting orientations, different gyro correction directions, different servo layouts and mappings. I mean, it goes on and on. So I highly recommend that you do this process. Now, first question it's going to ask us, how is the V-bar mounted? In my particular case, mine is mounted face up, and the wires are facing the tail. You'll see the default setting is wires towards the front. This right here is going to orient our correction direction and also help with the overall servo layout. Okay, so if you've got it facing the ground, wires back, facing the ground, wires forward, I mean, make your selection appropriately. But mine right here is going to be with wires towards the back. So boom, going to select that. You'll even see that it changes it in the photograph over there on the side. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm face up with wires towards the rear. See that? Could have just flipped my helicopter upside down. So face up, wires towards the back. Next setting. Now this one here is important. This is why I didn't plug in my servos first. Again, in theory, mine are plugged in now, but hypothetically if they weren't. This is going to allow you to select your Swashplate setup. Now what I'm doing here is I'm assuming I'm at the HR-3, which is 120 degree CCPM, and it says REV for reverse. I'm assuming here that channel 1 is going to be my elevator, and my anti-rotation bracket will be towards the tail. This would be the nose up here towards the tail down here. So that means I'm going to be going elevator, aileron, aux servo, or pitch, right? So channels 1, 2, and 3 are mapped out and defined. If for any reason, let's say you have like one of the older Align models, I know they had like the anti-rotation bracket up front, you can actually go in here and change this to this one. And I think this one right here, you'll see it changes the swash plate where the anti-rotation would be towards the front, right? Or any other variation, guys. Again, I mean, if you have the 4 servo setups like the Bergen's Intrepid turbine, or this or that, just make your selections appropriately here, okay? Pretty easy menu. So now we can go next. This one, pretty easy and basic. Are we rotating clockwise or counterclockwise on the main rotor? Gives us a cool little visual demonstration, so it shouldn't be too hard to make the right selection. My model, clockwise on the main, counterclockwise on the tail. So we're good. Let's go next. Another simple one. Are we going off of leading edge or trailing edge control? Of course, I've never really seen a trailing edge design on an RC model. Then again, I haven't seen all of them. So I know that we're doing leading edge. I'll make my selection appropriately. Let's go next. We're almost done here, believe it or not. Now, this menu right here is very appropriate, or important, sorry. It's also kind of appropriate. We've got our selection here for channel reversing. Take in mind right now, we're doing a quick run through for the pre-radio setup. So at this point in time, I don't have any servos plugged in. So how in the heck am I supposed to know which servos are reversed and which ones aren't? What I'm going to do is I'm going to set them all to normal. That way, once I'm done with this, I can plug in all my stuff and come back. It's going to give me options to this menu in my Swashplate setup. And the reason why I don't really do a whole lot right here, guys, is because the way I'm going to level the Swashplate is a little bit different than how it has you do it through the setup wizard, okay? So just follow along here. So I'm going to set all of these to normal. I'm not going to worry about it. My servos aren't even plugged in, so who the heck knows, okay? So let's just skip next. And this is the menu that I wanted to address. So this here gives you the option to add, I guess you could call it sub-trims. However, it doesn't trim an individual servo. it trims the movement or the mixing of the servos together. An example would be, let's say, your aileron control. If I actually adjust the aileron, you'll notice the toggles, they adjust the movement left to right. So this right here is going to be used later on during flight to get us more or less of a perfect stationary pirouetting kind of a trim. This is not going to be used to 90 your individual servos and achieve that level swash plate. So all I do is I come down and make sure everything's cleared. I'm going to hit clear all. And I'm going to also skip this menu here. This will make more sense, trust me, as we progress. Okay. Last but not least, here we have the positive collective and negative collective. Again, we don't even have the main rotor on yet, nor do we have our foundation set up. So this one we can also skip. Trust me, we're going to come right back to it. And then our cyclic value. This will be kind of similar to a lot of the other systems I'm kind of used to working with, like BeastX and Spirit and everything, where it wants me to set an 8 degree of cyclic. We'll do this later on with the pitch gauge, okay? So for now, just skip, okay? And last but not least, our tail. Now this is another big one here. Again, we don't know what direction we want our tail to be moving. It's not technically plugged in. But this here, this is why we don't want to have it plugged in. It doesn't even know what our tail servo is yet. So it says, please select. Let's go in here and let's see what we've got. Now I know that mine's a 333 hertz. It's not a 1520 pulse though, so I don't want that. I know mine's a 760. There's mine. And if you keep scrolling through, it's going to go ahead and give you all the different options that you can and cannot select, okay? Mine needs to be 333 hertz, 760. That's my selection. You want to make sure that you have that, of course, so that you don't damage your servo upon startup. Everything else is still to be undetermined because we still have to plug in all of our servos. We'll hit next. Now, governor option. I'm going to be using an external governor, okay? I'm using the Hobby Wing governor that's built into my ESC. If you're using the electric governor or the nitro governor, you'll see it's indicated there by V-bar E or V-bar N. I'm just going to select external. Now this will disable certain menus and features within the V-bar as well in the controller. And you'll see that later, they just put like little lines through them. So, okay, let's hit exit. And we're back to the main menu. Now we have successfully done just the initial pre-programming of the radio to make sure everything is safe to use as far as plugging in all of our servos and everything. I'm going to go in real quick and name this model. And also, I'm going to plug in all of my servos, and we'll come back and do a quick review on that. Guys, take in mind, please, just follow on the rest of the video, because I'm going to show you where everything goes as far as plugging it all in, too. That way there's no confusion there. And then we'll go ahead and throw on our swash leveling tool, and we'll 90 out our servos. Okay, guys, so getting back at it here, I've went ahead, I've installed everything. Again, I know mine was already done, but everything is plugged in. Now, a couple of quick things to talk about here. Let me go ahead and I'm going to reboot up my system so that I'm ready for you. So I like to do power cycles every once in a while. Now, as far as plugging everything in, it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. Your ESC will be put into the port that's labeled ESC. That's straightforward. Make sure you pay attention to the orientation of the pins. Your signal wire is going to be on all the rows coming this way. Your signal wires are on top. Your negatives are on bottom. And you'll notice you got these two flat ports up top. One is labeled RPM. One is labeled aux1. Pay attention to the orientation on those, okay? So, again, straightforward. ESC plugs into ESC. That's hard to get mixed up. If you're using a nitro, that is where you would plug in your throttle servo, okay? Tail servo, straightforward. That's going to be your tail servo. Now, channels 1, 2, 3, and 4 kind of threw me for a loop for a minute because I came again from doing the BeastX and doing the Spirit and everything. Usually channel 4 would be the rudder, right? It's not. So that's actually a fourth channel for the different mixing of the CCPM. So they have some older models that actually used to use 4 servos and whatnot to achieve all your mixings. I haven't seen them in a long time. I think the Bergen's Intrepid was the last one I did that had that, but it's been a long time. So Channels 1, 2, and 3 we looked at. Remember, we did our pre-radio setup. We know channel 1 is going to be the one that's connected to our anti-rotation pin. That'll be the elevator servo. And then it's going to go in a clockwise fashion around. So I always like to make a rule. In theory, I don't think it really matters whether you use aileron and or your aux 1 or pitch servo on the left or right. But I always like to go left, aileron, right, pitch. That's just what I do. So I've got channel 1, elevator, channel 2, aileron. It's on the left side of my helicopter, and then channel 3, the right side, which is going to be my pitch or my aux 1, okay? Moving down from there, my ESC does have the double redundancy connection, so it's got a separate lead of just black and red that allows me to just get a double security for power. I went ahead and plugged that into the top port, aux 1. Take in mind, orientation of the wires is important. And then last but not least, my ESC also comes with an RPM signal cable, which goes right into the RPM port, okay? And it's that easy, guys. Everything's done. I went ahead and cleaned up my little antennas and made them all fancy and everything just so that they look good. But that's basically what we're going to be looking at for this, okay? So now that you've got everything plugged in, you're feeling confident, everything's good to go. Again, I went ahead and power cycled my model. The next step that we're going to want to do, as always, guys, with any system, we work our way from the ground up. Establish your foundation, build your house. That way you get the best performance you possibly can. Now, in order to do that here, what we're going to want to do first is let's make sure that our servos are moving in the right direction. Afterwards, we'll continue on with centering those servos, and then we'll move up to our linkages and our swash and our main rotor and everything else. Okay, so all we're going to do here to start this off, you guys, is let's jump over to my radio real quick. Let's see what we got here. Let's find the menu that allows us to reverse or select normal for our servos, okay? I did forget to name mine, and I'll get around to that. But all right, let's see. So we're going to go down into Model Setup. And we're going to go down into Setup Tools. Or actually, nope, cancel that one. Jump out of Setup Tools. We want to go to Main Rotor. My bad. Okay. So main rotor, you can see here, swashplate type, HR3 is good. Rotation direction, clockwise, good. Collective direction, we're good. Leading edge. Now here we go. Servo directions. We've got our triple ends, because we set them all to normal. We don't know what the heck we're doing yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply move my collective stick up and down. And we're going to find which channel we need to reverse, okay? So let's go ahead and jump over to the machine. And you'll see here when I move my collective up, I am not getting all three mixing together. But what I am seeing is that channel 1 here is moving up. Channel 2 is moving up. Aha! Channel 3, you son of a bitch. That one's moving in the wrong direction. So, all we gotta do, in theory, is we should be able to come right over to our radio. And go, boom. Channel 3, reverse. Okay? So with that being done, let's jump back over to the machine here. Let's try that again. Let's go collective. Boom. Okay, there's what we're looking for. Now, guys, right now, here's what's not important. What's not important is that the swash plate isn't level or that our servos aren't centered. What's important is that the servos are mixing in sync with each other. Okay, that's all we care about right now. When I move up, all three move up together. Okay, so that's a good sign. Now let's also check out our forward elevator. Okay, let's give forward on the cyclic. All three servos mix forward, backwards. Let's go right. That's good. Left is good. Okay. The tail. Let's check the tail. Left is right. Right is left. My tail is also good too. So now's a good time. I know we're on the cyclic menu, but now's a good time to check the tail as well. So right now, jump back over to the radio here. Right now, that's what I ended up with. Normal, normal, reverse. And everything is working as needed. So toggle these controls as needed, guys, to make sure that your swash plate is mixing correctly, okay? Ignore the swash plate, ignore the centering of the servos. Again, at this time, you could test fit on some servo arms if you're at that stage, you know, and make sure everything's working. And we're going to get to the centering next. If you need to do the tail, it's going to kind of be the same thing, guys. You'll just jump in here. And just downsize the main rotor and jump into tail rotor, and then just go tail setup, boom, and then it's going to give you all your options. Now again, with my tail, the best way to do it on this kind of a machine is I always look at it this way. If I go left rudder, my slider mechanically should move to the right. If I give right, it should move to the left. And mine is correct. It's kind of hard for me to film the tail for you, but make sure your tail servo is indeed in the right direction. If not, just go ahead and fix it right here, okay? So, now that all of that is done, let's jump back over to the machine real quick. Let's do a quick recap at where we're at thus far. Okay, we have successfully paired the V-bar to our V controller. We've got everything plugged in and wired successfully. And we went through our pre-setup wizard just to make sure that everything on our size and model and everything's right. It also helps set things like the gains, other really important factors that you might look at. And then also we went through the menus to successfully get the mixing of our CCPM correct. Okay, that's one that's going to be really important. So up, down, up, down, up, down, forward, backwards, right, and left. And also our rudder is moving correctly, okay? So just due to the length and time that this takes, guys, I'm going to end this video here. In the next setup series that we're going to be going through in the next video, we will then get into centering our servos, leveling our swash. We'll get the main rotor on and get our 0 degrees of pitch and everything set up. And overall, just progress from there. And it should only be another video or two, and we can get this bad boy out and do the test flying. So that's what I'm really excited for. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Follow me in the next video. And remember, if Freddy can fly, so can you.